Look at who I brought. The great Myq Kaplan, comedian extraordinaire. He's got a new album available on YouTube. I just watched it. It is brilliant and hilarious and heartfelt. Rini is its name. Myq, welcome back. It's been way too long, and it's my fault.
Thank you so much. I'm happy to share the responsibility. I always love talking to you. Thank you for having me. And already an inspirational conversation. Thank you for referring to me as a comedian extraordinaire. I think it would be hilarious to refer to oneself as comedian ordinaire.
Right. I mean, but there or any other job,
yeah,
ordinaire. It would be even funnier if you were a teacher ordinaire.
Oh yeah. I mean, yeah, depending on the relative, scope, like, if everything was operating at a reasonable level, then ordinaire. If everyone's just doing ordinaire, then that's great. If everyone wants to go above and beyond, ordinaire, you get your universal basic income, extraordinaire, and you get some bonuses.
Yeah, we could break it down to your healthcare coverage too, I suppose. But what is less? I guess we just need one more category because the ordinaire would be normal and neutral, I guess.
Oh, yeah, subordinaire.
Let's name names.
That would be subordination. I will not suborn such subordinariness. I've run out. That's good night, everybody. Thank you for having me.
I'm already entertained and already enjoying it. It's so hard to believe I had banned you from the show for so long. I don't know. Yeah. Your last appearance, you were very anti-Semitic.
Yeah, that I get that a lot from the people who are more Jewish than I.
What is your level?
The right one. But the reasonable one, the one that cares for, all beings. Truly. This is a joke that I would tell sometimes is that, when sometimes obviously whenever you say you're Jewish, I always say it's a weird time to be Jewish all the time. It's never not a weird time. Name a time, and I'll tell you why it's weird to be Jewish at that time. And also, it's weird to be anyone at any time. Like, it's weird to be awake and alive. It's weird to be asleep or dead. But I would say on stage sometimes, as a Jewish person, over the past couple years, sometimes people will assume different assumptions or connotations about your beliefs and your identities. So I always want to say, like, I'm Jewish, but it doesn't mean, of course, that I agree with everything that the state of Israel, the military, the government does over there, the same way that as an American, I don't agree with everything that the American military or government does over here. I want all Palestinians to be safe and free and live with ease. I want all Jews to be safe and free and live with ease. I want all people, all beings to be safe and free and live with ease. But why can't I say this to my cousin? That's all. That's how Jewish I am.
I was going to ask you, when you are around mostly or all Jews, does that ever happen at a family gathering or with your mostly Jewish friend group that I assume you have, and because you hate diversity? And, I mean, are you having interfaith conflicts?
Yeah, I mean, certainly I will say that I do. There are people in my life that I love who have slightly different, who see things slightly differently than I do. And like, there are some people with whom I have talked about it extensively. And then there are some that, we talked about it enough that we're like, well, I guess we've reached, we understand where we are, and we love each other, and we're going to, do what we think is best and right and advocate. Like, there's a wonderful TED Talk that happened, I think last year, or thereabouts, between, an Israeli man who had lost family members in the October 7th attacks, and a Palestinian man who had lost family members, earlier on due to, violence from, I believe, the Israeli military. And these men were coming together, in kind of fellowship and brotherhood and peace, and advocating that, the only way forward is to not continue to perpetuate, violence and recriminations and anger. And of course, look, I think Mark Maron has said, he has a joke where he's like, people ask me, where do you stand on, on the Israel-Palestine situation as an American Jew? He's like, as an American Jew, I stand in America, and we're, not on the ground. Like there's certainly, I'm no expert by any means. I have, friends and people who like are more connected and know more people. And, I'm not a journalist. I'm not heavily researched. And I know it's very easy to say, peace, everyone. Peace is it's right. I wish everyone was saying it. It's easy. And I also understand why it's not as simple as that and not as easy as that. But I do love that TED Talk.
That's those guys together do it?
Yeah, they do. They have a joint conversation.
You like when people get along and are feeling good, and you also do inject that. That's kind of your thing, both on and off stage, both on and off anything. You're a very positive, loving person, and also apparently Jewish. And we've talked about your family before, but where do you derive that energy that you give off to everybody that you seem to care about, and including even probably extraordinarily those you don't care about, like strangers and stuff?
Yeah, I think that a lot of it's interesting because I've learned about Buddhism a lot in the last, 5 to 10 years, I would say. And I have a good friend who's a practicing Buddhist, and I've like sort of learned from him and studied with him and read a lot of books and listened to a lot of talks by, Buddhist teachers like Suzuki Roshi and Pema Chodron and Thich Nhat Hanh, and then other sort of, adjacent spiritual teachers like, Ram Dass and Jack Kornfield and Joseph Goldstein, Sylvia Boorstein. How long do you have for me to name names?
Well, you're just so you know, because you may not know this, but you're speaking my language. I mean, I proselytize, especially about Pema Chodron, Ram Dass, obviously, and those that she, I think, probably was inspired by and taught by. But yeah, go ahead. So you're saying it comes from a lot of that teaching. So, but it feels like it was your nature before, and it also feels like it could be described in a very do no harm. You're very do no harm. Are you vegan as well?
I am vegan. Right. Look how long I went without telling you, and the thing is, I think that earlier in my life, like I was very fortunate. Like my family, my parents were teachers. I was raised like middle class, whatever that means, or that's what it seemed like at the time. Like we had a home. Like I was never hungry. I had enough shelter. I was an only child. I was an only grandchild. I was sort of doted upon. And there's this thing from the Talmud. I wonder if we've talked about the Talmud, the great collection of sort of commentaries on Jewish law and customs and such. And there's like a rabbi who said, I have one piece of paper in each of two pockets. One piece says, this world was created for you. The other says, we are nothing but ash and dust. And those are both, valuable things to keep in mind because they're equally true depending on the context. If your head gets too big, I'll speak for myself. If I'm like me, and then I'm like, but also, in the grandest scheme of the universe, it is not only me. Like there's another rabbi who has said, if I am not for me, who will be for me? But if I am only for me, then who am I? And so these sort of, these dichotomies, these dialectics, like, two seemingly opposing things that can both be true if you're a person who's like, I want to generalize across genders, but in our society, like men are socialized a certain way, boys are socialized a certain way. There's certainly exceptions, and women and girls are socialized a certain way. And I know that I, as an only child, Jewish boy, was given the message by my family that this world was created for me. So I had to learn at some point, which comedy helped a lot with, because I go on stage with like delusional self-confidence in my early 20s, and I'm like, I am what's important to listen to, and people in the audience are like, I don't understand exactly why, and I'm like, because my grandmother said so. And so I starting doing comedy in my 20s, ways, that was like the first taste I had of like, oh, not only me, not just me, and like listening to other people's experiences. Like my girlfriend Rini, the namesake of the special, who co-created it with me, we've been together almost a decade, and she's a person who actually introduced me to Pema Chodron and introduced me to other teachers like Byron Katie, and like she's been on a lot of a spiritual journey for longer than I have, or more in depth in ways.
Great.
And so because of that, so starting meditating, and also, finding ayahuasca and all these different teachers and modalities through which I'm like, oh, like I think my natural tendency was to, and is to, as exemplified by right now, taking up a lot of space and then being like, okay, well, I'm on a podcast, I'm supposed to be talking, but then be like, oh, this is a conversation. I'll leave a, what do you, enough about me. What do you think about me? That kind of thing.
That's mindfulness. That's what's happening right now, which is part of the practice, which it sounds like you have, and which sounds like your partner has, and she is a little ahead of you. It's great to have good friends and be in a relationship with people who are ahead of you on any kind of journey, including woodworking, I bet. Like, no matter what it is, like if you have a friend, a mentor, someone, so it's wonderful that your girlfriend of 8 years who helped you write and create this special, which I just threw up on the screen, but I'm not talented enough to bring back. And everybody should go watch Rini, which drops tonight on YouTube, if and only if you're watching live or listening, because this is Tuesday on the live. It'll be Wednesday for people on the podcast, the 19th. But Myq has a new special out, which is what he's here to promote. But I like to have great conversations and then just stop and mention and plug. That's how I do it, because it's hard to talk about a thing. It's like, go fucking watch it. It's so good. And I like to now watch it. I just talked to Greg Proops, and he has a new album out, and I loved that I watched it, or in his case, I listened to it. Then I immediately talked to him, just did the same thing with you. Your new special is brilliant and hilarious and heartfelt and original as always. And I thoroughly enjoyed it and felt great. I mean, I feel great whenever I am around you. I think that's the thing about you. One of the
I really appreciate that. I'll say just a quick tweak. You're 100% right in everything that you said. It is brilliant and heartfelt and all that. But also for the people, it's for the people listening on the podcast starting Wednesday and beyond, that it is tonight. It does come out Wednesday at 8 p.m. Eastern time, and we're talking on Tuesday. But really, Pete, what is time? And that's the next thing I'd like to get into. Yeah. And there's truly. Rini has been an abundant, source of joy and learning in my life. Like, I can't imagine, who I would be without her. Like, I mean, I can remember who I was without her. And like, that's kind of a little bit about what the show is about, is that, I contain, all of the versions of myself, all the memories that I have of the past. And I'm like, oh, wow. Like, like a comedian, you're a comedian, when you started out doing comedy, here's a joke that I tell only on podcasts. But the truth is that when I started out in 2002, I thought I was great because I didn't know anybody, because of the Dunning-Kruger effect, which I also didn't know about then, right? I was like, I don't know anything. And so the thing that I know is I think I know everything. Right. And a year after that first comedy set, I could look back at my first set a year later and think, oh my God, I thought that was good. That was bad. But thank God I'm good now. And then a year later, look back at that set and be like, oh, that was bad. Thank God I'm good now. And every year looking back and thinking like, okay, well, that was bad. But which means that has been continual growth and still continual, hopefully ever decreasing delusion, that's tempered with, okay, I now have some, like, we're all still works in progress, unless you're a divinely enlightened Buddha, omniscient master, which, you truly, everyone but me could be. I could be the last holdout. It's always possible that this is all just here as a test. But
your modesty has gone. Your modesty has gone too far with that last final point. And I was just gonna say, like, this, it's interesting the way that you talk about your journey as a comedian and how, of course, you got better, and where you thought you were at the beginning versus where you got. I actually watched your special, and as much as I loved it, I actually think you've gotten worse.
Pete,
I mean,
Now, here's the thing.
Really,
that's the exact kind of joke that I would have expected from you 10 years ago. So you've plateaued, comedian ordinaire. No, you were. It was perfection.
one of my favorite, like, I slam him and then he slams me back so much harder was I don't know Anthony Jeselnik that well, but I used to hang out with him a little bit way back in the day. And I said to him, I hate how funny you are because you're also very good looking, and very good looking people should not be as funny as you are. It's like an offhanded, and he said, he just looked at me and he goes, if that were true, then that law would mean you should be way funnier.
That's beautiful.
Yeah, it was a really wonderful, and that's where I became a believer in his talent.
Oh yeah, that joke is so beautiful. It shouldn't be funny, but it is.
Yes,
And
yes.
it reminds me of these two things. Number one, Rini in our home, like, she is not a comedian. She has actually said I couldn't be a comedian because I want jokes to make sense. And so that's an energy that she brings to my comedy as well, and helps things make sense of the nonsense. I'm like a sensei of nonsense, a non-sensei, if you will. And she one time, she knows a lot of comedy. We watch a lot together. She's experienced it on her own. She doesn't always know people's names. And so one time years ago, she was trying to remember. She's like, who is that comedian? He's like handsome, mean jokes. And I was like, that's Anthony Jeselnik. That's right. And you also reminded me, here's my story about that. But I guess this is unfortunate in that, like, you did the exact right thing. I'm gonna tell you this story, but I realized in your story you come out, like, Anthony is the hero of that. He's like both the hero and the villain. You are like the protagonist of that story. This is a story where I'm just like, oh, my version of that is I'm in Anthony's position talking to Pete Holmes, but like, I'm gonna end up just bragging about a fun thing that I said. But here it is. This is where I used to be, like 10 years ago, or whenever I first did Pete Holmes's podcast, You Made It Weird. I showed up, and it was, I don't know if you ever performed at Meltdown Comics. It was this comic book store in LA where they had an amazing show in the back every Wednesday. And so Pete recorded his podcast at the time, like upstairs in this comic book store, which is like a dream to me. Comedy, comic books, that's all I care about. I hadn't met Rini yet. Now I care about three things: comedy, comic books, and Rini, and you as well. And all, like, everybody else is tied for fourth. But I mean, I guess you're comedy. You're up there. You're in the top three. And so I show up, I think I buy a comic book. I also maybe had like a headache or something. So I had some Tylenol with me. And so I head up to the room. I sit down at the table. I've got my comic book. I've got my headache medicine, and Pete just starts riffing on it. He's like, we're doing a podcast. Like, what are you doing with a comic book and headache medicine? Something like that. And I was like, well, we're in a comic book store and you're loud, And he was like, you just Bugs Bunny turned that rifle into my Elmer Fudd face, So Pete is wonderful, and I'm happy. Look, he has a very successful career, so I'm happy to tear him down any amount that I can.
Do you deal every apparently, even I heard chimpanzees feel jealousy, and you resemble some primate, not a chimp, but I'm not sure which one. Well, probably one of those exotic monkeys, the little guys. But do you deal with that? I feel like you are very like, again, I'm making assumptions here just based on what little I know of you and, our conversations. But how often, or how does envy show up in your life? Is it about other comedians, is their careers? Is it about anybody else, and happiness, money, and anything like that? Looks, my body, like you probably see.
Yeah, I see you as Anthony Jeselnik sees you. No, truly, thank you for asking. I think that the fact is that, like, I was actually just doing a podcast yesterday. I'm on this podcast junket where another comedian friend said to me something like, what bums you out, or what depresses you, or, because you always seem to be like in a good mood. And I said to him, well, whenever I'm talking to you, I'm talking to you. So I'm in a good mood. Like, have you ever done, like, sometimes I'll be talking like, a mile a minute on a radio show, and they're like, wow, does it ever shut off? I'm like, yeah, when I'm not on a radio show, I'm not, all night, every night, just like, I mean, I do talk in my sleep sometimes. Rini has some very funny examples of that. Like, I'll just like wake up, or like just sit up dead. Anyway, to get back to your question, actually, Pete is a great example of like I used to listen to his podcast all the time, regularly. I still love listening to it, but now at a certain point, I stopped listening to the intro where he would announce his dates. He's like, I'm coming to this city and that city and this club and that club. And like some of them are clubs that I've been to and some of them are clubs that I hadn't been to in a while, or maybe that I'd never been to. And so there was absolutely an element when I'd listen, I'd be like, well, I want to perform at that club. Why aren't I performing at that club?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And I do my best to like, so another element of Buddhism that I actually learned about maybe a decade ago in my last relationship. I had a partner who, and if Rini were here next to me, she would gasp, because that's a bit that she does whenever I mention a past relationship, as though she's surprised that I ever had one. But my last girlfriend introduced me to this podcast with like, it was a talk with a Buddhist teacher. I forget, it might have been like Dharma Punks or something. And it was something about if you're in traffic, like, and you're angry or you're frustrated and you look at the people ahead of you, which is like the kind of thing that I'm doing, if I'm looking at, like, Pete has more dates on the book than me.
Yeah.
And like, he's like ahead of me in traffic. Right. But then the advice that the teacher gave is, well, look at the people behind you. Look at all the people behind you who would love to be where you are right now, and send love to those people. And then he's like, and even like next level, look at the people ahead of you and send love to those people as well, because they're not in the same geographical position as you, or emotional or spiritual position as you, but they're wherever they are in the midst of their own, journey as well. And we never know, they say, don't compare your insides to somebody else's outsides. And so sometimes that's a way that I can help, when I can remind myself, like, if I knew, like, 20 years ago, 10 years ago, any number of years ago, where I'd be now, like, I would love, I've been making my living from comedy since 2008. I was doing comedy since 2002 and 2008. Since then, I haven't had to take a job that isn't comedy. I've taken, a few things, weird things here or there, but like by and large, my income has come in from comedy, and that is, I'm immensely grateful. Like, that is incredible. And so that is what I strive to, use as a touchstone when I do see. Sometimes people get things that I don't even want. They're like, how'd they get that writing job on a show that I didn't apply to and could have ever wanted to, but I didn't want to, like, it seems like, and I feel like that's for me, an attitude that I absolutely did have, like, more earlier, like when I was, like, when you're a comedian starting out, like for me, I'm like trying jokes, like, who knows, does this work? Does that work? Throwing a lot at the wall, seeing what sticks. And you end up with some jokes about things that are really important to you, and some jokes that you're like, this one's dumb and who cares? And does it even make sense? And doesn't matter. They're laughing. That's great. I'm going to use it. And then, so I feel like similarly, we can do that in life as well, for discovering like our path, or the things that make sense to spend our time on, because we don't have limitless time in this individual incarnation. So as much as we have the capacity to choose who we spend our time with and what we focus our attention on, and like that, the food that we put into our body, like, comprises our body. The experiences that we experience with our mind and our consciousness, it comprises our mind and our consciousness. And so I do my best to, like, start each day, drinking enough water and meditating. And right now I'm listening, like, reading or listening to, some kind of peaceful meditative book, theoretically, or a teaching from a teacher. I'm reading one right now called Change Me Prayers by Tosha Silver. And so there's a guy named Alan Cohen, who wrote like a page a day book where, 365, like, kind of lessons, fables, insights, where each day just offers you this simple message. And one of them that really stuck with me is about the formative minutes of the day, as parallel to the formative years of your life. When you're born, you need, like, to benefit, to become as healthy as possible, you need enough food, you need enough water, you need enough clothing and warmth and, physical care and affection. If you have a family or someone that loves you and cares for you and takes care of you, like, the formative years of your life, if you don't get enough, medicine and food, then that you might not be as tall as you could be. You might not be as physically healthy or mentally well as you would be otherwise. And this guy talks about the formative minutes of the day, that each day is akin to a year. And so if we start each day, I used to be, I just pick up the phone, and sometimes still, I'm not immune to it. I'm like, the phone's right here. I meditate on the phone. Sometimes I'm like, oh, a text came in. Oh no, a news alert. Oh no, this. But if at my best, I try to, meditate and do peaceful things for like the first chunk of the day, even if it's only 10 minutes, 5 minutes, however long I can go before, diving into the stormscape of social media, the news, challenging situations, because then I'm hopefully bolstered by the peaceful experiences that have begun the day.
Well, I love to hear about your practice. Although the question I asked you was, do you like bread?
Oh no, no. I mean, Rini is allergic to gluten, so we're pretty much a bread-free household.
Where do you find joy with like you just? By the way, check it out, Rini. There it is. It's the new special. I just watched it. You can watch it. You can listen to it. But you got to support Myq. You got to at least watch it, at least click on it, press play, and leave the room. But also, you can send him money. You can subscribe. You can buy it, all kinds of things. And of course, you can see Myq live. If you get the opportunity to see Myq Kaplan live, you must take it, because as you can see, he is a very, very original, thoughtful, hilarious man and comedian. And there's the plug. And I want to ask you another question before you have to go on to your next podcast tour.
I appreciate it. Can I say one quick thing about what you just said?
No.
No. Oh, I'm sorry. Well, please continue after I do what I want to do, even though you said I couldn't, as a joke. So this is funny. I post jokes to Threads, among other social media platforms, and I posted one sometime in the past couple days that like got more views than many of my posts get for whatever reason. And the joke was, I wish that Fox News was just news about foxes. And so a lot of people have enjoyed and co-signed and put a lot of Fox memes in it. And I was like, oh, wow. A lot of people have seen this. Almost 300 people have shared it. 14,000 people have liked it. It has so many responses. I'm so grateful for that. And I was like, oh, I wonder, like, the thing that social media can be for is to connect, as a comedian, is to put your stuff out there, and hopefully it will reach the people who will like you. And then maybe they'll also watch the special. So I was just like, oh, maybe I'll just I'll add a thread to the thread and say, hey, if you enjoyed this fun thought, perhaps you might enjoy my new stand-up comedy special, Rini, which debuts on YouTube this Wednesday. And I love that this happened. It's, I strive to change the F in furious to a C for curious, but somebody responded to that, to my response to that, and they said, ugh, why does everybody have to have promotional intentions? Can't people just share thoughts without also being all buy my stuff? I wish money were outlawed so that people didn't feel the need to engage in shameless self-promotion. And number one, I don't think that there is shame in suggesting that I'd love for people to watch the comedy that I've created. But I wrote back to them, my special is free. I'd love for you to watch my special that cost a lot of money to make for free. I'm here with the intention of sharing jokes for free. And if you like those, to share my comedy special for free. I hope you enjoy it for free. They haven't written back, but I'm checking every day. Because truly, like, I also wish that money weren't the thing that it were. I truly wish that everyone had all that they needed or were on their path to getting it. In fact, in a Buddhist paradigm, I mean, the goal for a lot of Buddhisms, I'm not a Buddhist, so I don't know how to use the terminology correctly. I love it. I love Buddhism. But the idea, it's funny, the Dalai Lama said once, and I was going to start with this at a certain point. The Dalai Lama once said, Jews be Jews, Buddhists be Buddhists. Like, all paths are valid, we're all fingers pointing at the same moon. All these paths are paths up the same mountain. And he said, Jews be Jews, Buddhists be Buddhists. And I was like, as a Jew, actually makes me want to be a Buddhist. I love what he said. But the point is, one of the goals, I mean, I think the main goal in Buddhism is the end of suffering, the elimination of suffering, and the increase of happiness and the roots of it for all sentient beings. And like the definition of love in Buddhism, a definition is like when you love someone, you want their happiness to increase. When you're compassionate, you want their suffering to decrease. Like that is what I want. I mean, it's certainly like easy to want it, easy to say it, perhaps less simple, maybe simple, but less easy in every moment, because we are also these flawed, fallible beings, like doing our best to, help ourselves, to help our loved ones, our families, our tribes, our, whatever group, and expand and expand and expand. And I love that the Buddhists in general, at least in theory, like are expanding that infinitely. And I think, every faith tradition and every non-faith tradition that is based in, there's a lot of atheists that are doing the Lord's work. I've said, there's a lot of atheists, and I've been one in the past, who would say like, well, regardless of what happens after this world, after this life, we've got this one right now. And what can we do if we have enough, if we have more than enough? What can we do to help other people get enough? And the way that we can do that is to watch my special.
I didn't see it coming. There it is. Everybody, go watch Rini. Myq, I love everything you had to say here, and how enlightened you always are and continue to be. I really appreciate you joining me. It's also, by the way, that I went over on Threads to look, and I realized I wasn't following you, so you're welcome.
Oh, I think that's going to be the follow that changes everything,
I guess. I have heard that it has been for several people, mostly women, but maybe it's your your post was, I wish Fox News was just news about foxes. Yes. 14,000 people liked it. 693 people reshared it, which is kind of the ultimate, because it's an endorsement of like, I think this is so funny, I'm going to share it with other people. 14,000. Then, as you said, you followed up with a reply for everybody who saw it. Hey, everyone, you enjoyed this, with a great idea to plug your special. 4 likes.
Yeah. I
think the comment that the guy made also evidence of like when people should just stop before they start typing and go, do I need to say this to anyone? But more importantly, the comment in reply to your promotion should have been, it never works. Like I fall for it every time. We all do that. A hot tweet, a hot post, whatever. And then you try to capitalize on it or share it or even reshare it. I have a friend who's big on TikTok. He just keeps resharing the hits. All that's smart. But when it doesn't hit again, or when they don't see it, it's like, what the fuck? Why didn't everybody see that? Because in this way, like, that is such a funny post. Also, it's just a great example of your humor, and a great, frankly, advertisement for your larger humor. In this case, your new special, Rini, which is available everywhere. And I just like, no one probably even saw that. That's the thing, because when you link to something, now I'm being boring, but when you link anything, a picture, anything, somehow no one's, I don't think they just don't see it.
Yeah, my understanding, or my speculation based on, talking to people who know more about this than I do, is that, the website, the platform wants to keep you on the platform. So if you put a link to something that is on a different platform, they don't have as much of an incentive to show that to other people, because they want to keep you in the infinite scroll, on which I call the scrolling bones, the old, like, just just keep going, keep giving it to me on this thing. Don't leave. Even if, I'm sure on some level maybe they are owned by different, is YouTube owned by Google? So yeah, they don't want, they don't want to help people find their competitors, which I understand. And also, I feel like there's a generous way in which I could interpret it, that maybe they are the big corporation agrees with this little person. They're like, no, just share for the sake of sharing. Why does everything have to be about
Oh,
money?
God,
Don't
it's
you just
so
want to give us things for free for the joy of it? Isn't that what you love as an artist? Like, we're a corporation. We're not, that's not what we want, but we want you like a Sabbath goy, right? Like the Jews are like, hey, we have our rules. We follow our rules. If you want to break our rule, that doesn't matter because you're not us. You can break our rules whenever you want. And that's what the corporation is doing. They're just like, hey, look, we have our rules where we try to monetize everything, try to make as much money from you as possible, but that's not what you want, is it? You're a pure-hearted, loving, compassionate artist. So we're saving you from becoming the kind of monster that we are. So aren't we the hero, in fact, in some way? Anyway, thanks for your money.
Well, I've gone through that particular guy's entire feed now, so I feel like I know him. While he believes Hitler was evil.
I'm very glad about that. I mean, every little bit helps as well for people who, I mean, a lot of what does, as I understand it, propagate engagement is when people disagree, dislike, say no, say I don't like I posted something last week, maybe that was like, you win 100% of the online debates that you don't participate in. And so a lot of people were like, no. I was like, great, give me them. That's great. Thank you. Like, keep looking at my, and I did actually fall off the wagon. I'm a bit of an argumentaholic recovering.
Oh, really? That surprises me a little bit.
Well, it's who I haven't always been. I mean, I haven't always been this, and I still am a little bit of what I always have been. And yeah, I used to go back and forth with people all the time. I feel like there's some meme or some cartoon, and I wish I knew who it was, like a guy, maybe it's Saturday Morning Breakfast Cereal, like a wonderful webcomic. If it's not this, it's something like it, and that one's great. But there's like just a guy at 3 a.m. at his computer, and he's like, I can't go to bed right now because somewhere there's somebody wrong on the internet.
That's one of my favorites of all time, but I'm just like you. I pick fights specifically with the MAGA people in my town. I specifically go on my town Facebook page. By the way, the guy that made that comment to you, I went through the timeline while we were talking, and this is him.
And look at that. Now, in some ways, we are celebrating this man. Look at that beautiful nature all around. And
let's send them some love.
I truly, like, that's, there are some, loving kindness, like meditation practices.
I do the Sharon Salzberg not every morning. Well, most of the days I send love to people I hate, people and things I feel neutral about, a neighbor's cat, and then of course to the people I really love. And I try to have a list, and I rotate people in my life. Some people don't get love. My ankles and my knees get love as well. I like the gratefulness, but so that guy's a dick. So let's send him some love.
He deserves it. Everyone deserves love. You don't have to do anything to deserve it. My friend Gus, the practicing Buddhist in my life, who has introduced me to many of these concepts, he told me about a story that he one time a friend told him that a politician had died, and Gus said, "Oh, that's too bad." And the person said, "Oh no, this was actually like an extremely like racist, sexist, homophobic politician." And then Gus said, "Oh, then it's too bad that they didn't live long enough to see the error of their ways, regret it, and start to make amends and try to atone and repent and do better to help people not succumb to the kind of, hateful, fearful thinking that he was operating in while he was alive."
Yeah. I want to meet your friend.
I'd love for you to.
I want to become better friends with him, at least to the point where you guys had plans and he canceled for me.
It's so funny that you're very funny. You're a good comedian. Everything that you've said about me also, anything that you see, Rini introduced this concept to me, the concept of we see the world not as it is, but as we are, So for you, like, there's this thing, obviously it's not a one-to-one, like everything that we see is projection necessarily, but do you know did you watch Justified, the Elmore Leonard inspired like noir kind of modern show about a U.S. Marshal played by Timothy Oliphant? His name is Raylan Givens. Elmore Leonard wrote this line, and I believe I saw it in the show. He says, if you meet an asshole in the morning, you met one asshole. If you meet assholes all day, you're the asshole. So it's important. I'm not calling anyone an asshole except for myself sometimes when I'm like, because it's hard for me to imagine the Dalai Lama calling someone an asshole. It's hard for me to imagine Dolly Parton calling someone an asshole. There are people who are operating, at least publicly, in a purely loving way. The Dalai Lama says he greets everyone he meets as though they're an old friend. And there's so many times when I do have a back and forth with somebody now, and I do my best to be curious online, like, because we don't know anything about their life, their tone, their intentions, how they came across, what they're seeing of whether they even know it's a joke. And I've had more often these days, I will start with a thing that seems aggressive and could be in bad faith, but when I think Sarah Silverman's a great example of this. Somebody called her the C word and she was like, are you in pain? And he's like, yes, actually I need back surgery. And she's like, let's fundraise to get you this surgery. And like, that's not everybody's it's not everybody's responsibility. Like every time you meet a person who is angry at you, who is, yelling at you, who is mean to you, it's not everyone's job. Like the Buddha in a previous life, there's a story before he was the fully enlightened Buddha that we know him to be. He one time came across a mother tiger, and she was starving, and her baby, her cubs were starving, and he fed himself to the mother tiger, the original tiger mom. She was trying to get them to do their homework, but it wasn't working because they were so hungry. And he fed himself. He sacrificed his life, before Jesus even, so Jesus was kind of hacky, but he sacrificed himself so that others could live and thrive. Buddha and Jesus, they were buds probably. And you can't spell Buddha without bud and ha at the end. But the Buddha, he fed himself to the tiger. And, I think her last word after the last thing he heard her say was, "That's great." And these are jokes. But the story truly is like, the message is not everyone should feed themselves to a tiger if they're hungry. Like that's like next level. Like you'll know when it's time for you to feed yourself to a tiger. You'll know when it's time to be, kind and compassionate to a stranger on the internet. And hopefully you can be kind and compassionate to yourself and express good boundaries and get away from people if they are, hurting you or mean to you. Like it doesn't mean that everyone should sacrifice themselves all the time, because then the big corporations will be like, yeah, that's what you do, but we'll be the ones that you sacrifice here to. We're the volcano.
I mean, the other way of saying it, I think Pema Chodron writes this, and I think the Buddha says some version of it, like every person you meet is an opportunity for kindness. And that's kind of great. What's great about the internet and podcasting and whatever you do, you can, if you live in a densely populated area, whatever, every person you meet is an opportunity for kindness. And if someone's being a dick or doing something terrible, you can meet them wherever they're at, or you can meet them with kindness. You don't have to feed themselves to you. And that's why I feel like today I feel good, because I gave you the opportunity to be kind to me.
That was a great kindness that you did for me.
And you're the only person I have made contact with today. So I love it. It's all my kindness. I knew this was the only person I would talk to. No, I'm talking to Colby Hall. If you're watching live at 3:00 from Mediaite. But Myq, what a wonderful, you have to go to the next one to promote your new special, which I'll put up on this. Here you go. Oh.
That's perfect. I love it.
Rainy, everybody, go watch it right now. Thanks for joining us if you join us live. And Myq, you are the greatest. Congrats on the new special. Keep it going. I absolutely adore and love you and respect you in all of the ways.
Thank you so much, Pete. I feel the same. Thank you so much for having me. I love you. Thank you for everyone who is listening and watching. We appreciate it.
End.